Hello, everyone, and welcome to RockSim Live. Um, you may notice this perspective is a little different. You're getting a little up close and personal with me today. Um, Tim did a major video recording earlier in the week or last week, sometime recently, and I can't find the camera he normally uses. We use for RockSim Live. I found a different camera that I don't have a cord for, and things are messy, so I'm just using my laptop camera, so we're a little close today. So I'll be switching to my screen here in a second, so you're not looking up my nose hairs and things like that. Welcome. This is RockSim Live. I'm Michelle. I'm the office manager here at Apogee. Tim is off today taking his daughter to college. His youngest daughter is starting her freshman year, so they're dropping her off over the weekend. So I'm filling in. Um, I do have two questions that were emailed in that we can talk about today. And if you guys have any other questions, um, throw it in the chat. Otherwise, it'll be a short um, recording today. Whoa, my computer sound is very, I don't know if you heard that or not, but computer sound is very loud. So, okay, well, we will get started here. Switch to my screen here. So, um, yeah, I was scrambling to find cameras, so I didn't quite get everything set up like I normally do for this. So, might be a little messy today. Sorry about that. So the first question that was emailed in was from a customer. He had a RockSim file where the CP was um, listed with different values in different places. So this is his rocket. It's a Wildman 6-inch V2. And here it says CP 69 inches, and here it says CP 63 inches. And he's using this for his level 3 certification, so he absolutely needed it to be, accurate. And he was trying to figure out which one, especially because his CG is only 61. That only gives you a margin of 1.71, which is, okay, assuming it's 69. If it's 63, your margin's only 0.43, which means it's not stable. And for a level 3 rocket, which for those of you who aren't aware, so level 1 is H, I, and J, level 2 is K and L, and level 3 is M, N. I don't know if you can use an O for your level 3 certification, but it's a level 3 too. So they're big rockets. This guy's rocket is, I don't even know how big the diameter is, 5.15, so 5 inches. Big rocket. I'm looking at the camera that I tried to set up and now not the right camera. Um, so it's a big rocket. So he was concerned about the stability. He's obviously going to have to add some nose weight, even with the 69-inch CP, that 1.71. It's stable, definitely, but he might add a little bit of nose weight to make it even more stable. Or once he adds his electronics and stuff, that'll do that too. So we, why he's asking, why is this like this? Which one is correct? What do I do? And our super cool front office staff actually figured this out and has already emailed him directly back about it. Ernest, Emmett, sorry, Emmett. And But it was a fun puzzle to solve for me to share with you guys for RockSim. So I don't know if you guys have any ideas on why this is happening. So if you want to throw your thoughts in the chat there, I'll kind of walk you through what I did to get to the answer, which ended up being the same answer as the front, and also sorting things out. So the first thing I did was he sent us his RockSim file, because sometimes it could be something weird and it's hard to troubleshoot without looking at it. So we get the RockSim file. It says CP69 here and CP63 here. So I threw in an engine, just loaded his engine there, and then I launched it. So does my system give the same answers as his system? Launch it, it launches, whatever. Yep, still 63. Okay, so we've established that I can recreate the results he's getting. That's the important thing. So then he was wondering if maybe the boat tail was causing some sort of weird issue. So the next thing I did was I went and opened up a different rocket in RockSim, just a stock one that comes with it that has a boat tail, the LexJet. So this has a boat tail back here. And I did the same thing. I loaded, oops, I don't want to plot my graph. I keep clicking on the wrong things today. Load engine, and then we'll go ahead and launch it. And so this one has a launch CP of 19.74 and a CP of 19.74. So that matches. So, oops, zoomed out. So it's not a boat tail problem as far as I can tell from this. So then I went back. So CP to his rocket, and CP is, just going back over here to the chat. You guys are quiet today. The CP in RockSim can be calculated one of three ways. It in the rocket design attributes, you can choose your show your CP location. You can use one of these three. So there's the RockSim stability equation, the Barrowman stability equation, and the cardboard cutout method. So and these are just different ways to come up with CP. The most accurate way to get a CP would be to put your rocket in a wind tunnel and actually measure that. Well, we obviously don't have that option here in the software. So the cardboard cutout method is if you take your rocket and you basically draw the outline of it and then balance it. It's super old school, super not accurate. It's the most conservative. It's going to tell you your CP is super far forward. Most of the time, it will tell you it's way far forward of where it needs to be, where it actually is. So it's like worst case scenario, if you use this, you're probably super safe. Then Barrowman is a bunch of mathematical calculations to figure out CP. So that uses a bunch of math to do it. And then RockSim takes the Barrowman and adds some special magic to it. So it's based on Barrowman, but it should theoretically be more precise than that. So basically, they're kind of in descending order of conservativeness. So like if you're not sure and you really don't know for sure if RockSim or Barrowman's more accurate, you can use the Barrowman and it's going to be further forward than, I mean, worst case scenario, it's further forward than where it actually is. It may be correct, it may be further forward, but you're being extra safe by moving it forward, which means your CG has to move forward, so your rocket's going to be more stable for that. So when I went here and I changed this, look at that. My CP went to 63.355 and 63.36. So clearly here it was using RockSim and here it's using Barrowman. Okay, so we figured that out. So how do we change that so that they're both the same? And I mean, this is Barrowman, so clearly I changed this so they're both Barrowman. But if I want to use RockSim as my stability equation, then I want my report to you guys are so quiet. I'm like paranoid that I'm getting disconnected. But if I want to use RockSim at both locations, how do I change this one? And I couldn't, because these are, in a table. If you don't have that in your flight simulation, all you have to do is right click and click on organize columns. And then these are all the possibilities that can show up in this table here. So, but there's no setting here to do that. So the place where most of the settings are in RockSim is in the RockSim menu under Preferences. I think on Windows it might be under Edit and then Preferences, but on Mac it's the RockSim menu. And so I just started going through here. Simulation settings. Well, clearly there's not an option there. Simulation summary. This is just what shows. Same deal. It's the exact same thing that if you right click, it'll show what there. My units. Well, theoretically it could be here because Barrowman's not a unit, but it's a way to calculate, but it's not here. So I just went through each screen looking to see, and then I got to miscellaneous, and here you go. Simulation method, use Barrowman equations versus use RockSim. And so that's where you change here. So, except it did not work. Use Maybe, oh, probably these are because these are previous simulations. Duh. I'm thinking it's units, so I'm thinking it's going to change the values. So now if we run it again, sorry, I'm a little discombobulated from scrambling with the camera situation. So now if I run it, see now it's 69 and 69 there. So so yeah. So it's it's fun sometimes to do a little like Sherlock Holmes mystery because it at first glance, the immediate thing is, oh no, is there a bug? Is it not calculating right? How do we know which one's right? That like panic. And like Tim has said many times before, 99.9% of the time it's not a bug. It's something else, a setting. So yeah, so that's why they were different and why they weren't matching up. Is somehow somewhere along the way, sorry guys, um, he must have changed one of them and not the other when he was doing a simulation, or possibly if he downloaded the file from somewhere, the file might have had that saved in there for the actual flight, whatever in one place and not the other. But that's why um, that was like that. So that was actually made me feel good. It was a little bit of a win to say, oh yeah, I figured out like how this was. I always like troubleshooting and finding answers there. So yeah, this is a cool rocket that Emmett's doing. The um, the V2. I always like V2s. I'm a history nerd, so there's a little bit of that built into there. Um, okay. So looking here, looks like Terry says, why does my wings not display properly in RockSim 3D view? Um, there. I make a pod, I make a wing image in the distance, I make the angle, then it splits off around the back. Um, in the 3D view. Um, okay. I'm not sure exactly what's going on, Terry, with your rocket. So rocket with wings. LexJet actually has wings. So here are the wings here on this. So that might be one. So it's got a, you've got this one in this case is under the transition, but you've got your pod and then you've got your attachment. Um, in this case, it's got the little tiny, Tim's done this before in RockSim Live, it's got a little tiny tube that doesn't actually exist. It's just a placeholder tube. So, let's see if I can pivot this. If you can see there's like a fake tube there that just functions so that it'll hold things on, and then the wings are attached to that tube. So Terry, you might usually what I do if I've got a situation like that where I've got a rocket that something's funky on, I try and find a rocket in the database already that has a similar setup and see how they did it and see if that one's you're also seeing the same issue. It splits off around the back, so I don't know exactly what that might mean on the back. We're zoomed way in now. Zoom out. Nope, the other out. For the pods and the wings, you do have options for, you have radial position and radial distance. So what radial position is where it goes around the rocket, and then radial distance is how far it actually sits outside from the rocket. So that way it can float. So if it's sitting out like away from your rocket, you might need to, these are checked automatically, but see if I can make this bigger so you guys can see this. So if I play with like radial distance, this is the fin we're doing right now, it's a T-tail. So you can see that it moves further away from where it was, or moves closer away. So that affects that. and then radial position is rotating it around your connection point. So in this case, it's rotating around this upright fin there. So I messed that up somehow when I did this. So I'll just cancel out of that. Oh, I must have saved it at some point for that. So that's what I would take a look at. Terry, we're designing an S1D booster on the back of the wing. So yeah, I would start there, Terry. If you're still seeing an issue, maybe send us the file and we can take a look and help troubleshoot a little bit. Um, those are the things that are hard to do by, um, by text only, because it's hard. I'm having a hard time visualizing what's going on there for that. Okay, and Mark says it seems like there's a large difference between RockSim and Barrowman. I think it depends on the rocket. The ones with the tail cones and things, I think that affects it more. Um, so it depends on, and the complexity of, I mean, the CP depends on, how much stuff you have on the outside and how much your rocket changes. Um, and there's like newsletter articles about what the difference between RockSim and Barrowman are, and I don't really know off the top of my head too much other than there's, I think, more formulas involved. The Barrowman equations, we have a book that we used to sell like that's like this big with all of the equations that go into calculating all of this. So it's not easy math. So I think it depends a little bit on the rocket. Like if we pull up a super simple rocket, I think the difference between the two is pretty minimal. But these super complicated ones, like this guy, which I now totally jacked up. This says 18 inches for both, which is interesting. It's not taking the change. 19. So this one, for some unknown reason, it's, oops. Now I'm clicking on things that aren't. So it's 19 for the cardboard cutout and same for, pretty much the same for both. So yeah, it just depends on the rocket. Because, the CP at the end of the day is, all the different forces acting on the rocket. So the different rocket, the different shape, the more it will change there. So Micah asks why RockSim costs money and OpenRocket does not. To be honest, I have zero idea how OpenRocket does what they do. Those people must have lots of free time. RockSim costs a lot of money to work on. It is not really a money maker for us right now because we're putting a lot into the development of it. So you're constantly updating the software. Apple and Windows are both constantly updating their operating systems, so we have to make sure they're constantly, those are compatible. We're working on a newer version, so with new features, and we have a full-time programmer who works on this who has to be paid. So that's I don't know how OpenRocket does what they do. We've always had programmers who had to be paid in some way, shape, or form. So, you have to pay your employees and your contractors. And so that's why RockSim costs money, because, it can't be free. I have no idea how OpenRocket does what they do at all. They must just be, there's people out there who code for the love of it. And that's great. That is absolutely great. But you also get what you pay for. With us, we're having this RockSim Live. You can call and ask, you can email. Both of the people that sent questions this week got answers immediately. You call during the week, you're going to get somebody answering the phone 99% of the time, unless we're, in a meeting or something. Because we got people working on, if there's a bug, we're working on fixing it. Things like that. I've heard OpenRocket is hard to get tech support from. I don't know. I've never used OpenRocket myself as well. SpaceCAD was out there for a while, and I think they're basically non-existent anymore. I think the last time they updated their software was like 2016 or something. That was another one. So yeah. So at the end of the day, you don't get most software for free anymore. And at this point, most of them are subscription based too. you have to pay monthly. Right now, we still have RockSim on a one-time, you pay $140 and yeah, that's a lot, but you own it forever. That's a one-time fee. Adobe Creative Suite is like $60 a month for that. So yeah, so just be aware, there's an employee or contractor behind everything that happens, and they have a family to feed and things too. So let's see. Looking here. Okay, just looking at some of these. So Carlos asks, many modern Estes rockets use mylar rings slid over the engine hooks in engine mount sets. Do you just weigh and you add the rings as a mass object? Yes. So yeah, anytime you have something that goes inside the rocket that's not in a file, you would just do the mass object there. And you can add it to your database. I know we've gone over mass objects like ad nauseum here, but I don't. It's been a while since we talked about adding it to the database. So if you have, if they're always adding the same rings to it, and you don't want to like have to weigh it every time, you can actually add it to the database so that it's available for all your rockets. So you have to add it to every rocket, but it'll be in there. So we'll just pick a place, pick a place it's going to live. So click on mass object. So this is the database. So we're going to cancel out of here. And we're going to call this Estes Mylar ring. And the mass is 0.1 grams. Probably aren't very big, but I don't really know. And then the location switches back to 2D, where it's going to be. So in this case, it probably should have been in a further back. So we'll just put it back like 15 inches. Yeah, so that's about where the engine hook is there in that tiny little screen. So we've made our little Estes Mylar ring. We've weighed it. We know the mass. We've put the location. And then we go to the database tab and we can say Estes, and you can put a part number if you have one, or Mylar ring. Let's call that Mylar ring. And save to database. And so this is the database. This is what it's going to put in there, and you click OK. So I click OK. So now if I need to add another one, say there's two of them, one on each end of the engine hook, I can go back to we'll go down here to the transition mass object. And now I can scroll through my list, and there's my Mylar ring. And it weighs the same, and all you have to do is the location again, because it needs to know where it is in the rocket. But now I've saved it to my database. So that way you can just always add it to the rocket if it's not already there. So, okay, looking through here. You guys are all chatting now, giving each other hugs in the chat. That's always nice. I feel like we all need a little bit of a hug right now. It feels like it's just been kind of a rough couple weeks everywhere. So second question. The second question that we were emailed actually isn't a RockSim question. It's a rocketry question. And Mark asked, and Mark's here today too. So Mark, hopefully you got your answer, and hopefully I answer it similarly to, or give additional examples for that. So he's asking basically, in RockSim, one of the things you can do is angle the launch rod. So when you go to load your engine, so you choose your engine from the list, and then you go to starting state. So this is your launch pad. Starting state is your launch pad. So your launch guide length, so if you're using like a launch rod, it might be 36 inches for a little low power rocket. For a mid power rocket, it's probably 60 inches. At least most of the commercially available ones are somewhere between 45 and 60. If you're using a launch rail, that's probably 8 feet, maybe 6 feet if you're using a shorter one. So we'll put 60 in, and then you can angle the launch rod. So if it's windy, you can angle your launch rod into the wind. And NAR safety code says not more than, I think, 30 degrees. So, but you can angle it, to the left, 15 degrees, so you'll launch it into the wind and then it'll come back. But if you do it upright, it's going to drift forever. So this way it'll hopefully land a little closer to the launch pad. So that's where going with this. So in RockSim, you can do this super easy. And Mark's basically asking in real life, he goes to the launch, club launches, group launches, out launches, whatever, and they they have launch pads that are like a rod in some PVC pipe. Like there's no way to angle it. So like what he was wondering is basically like where this idea that you can angle the launch rod comes from, because in his experience you don't angle the launch rod, and if maybe competition rockets or competition pads are different. Um, so there's a couple of ways to do it. If you go here, buy a super snifty launch pad like the Aerotech Mantis pad. The Aerotech Mantis pad actually pivots. So it's got this nice little launch angle adjustment. So it's got a little like gear thing here. And so you can angle it, you can bring it down to just load your rocket on a launch pad, or you can angle the actual launch pad. So this is one that has the ability to angle it in it. It's built in. The gun turret launch pad, that's a high power. Oops, didn't take my click. Gun turret launch pad. This head here, this pivots, so you can angle it. So you can, and also especially for an 8-foot rod, you need to be able to angle it down to slide your rocket onto the 8-foot rod, because none of us are 8 feet tall and none of us really want to haul step ladders out to the field. So it angles over, and then you can latch it into place so you can angle the launch rod there too. But if you most people, so your Aerotech Mantis launch pad is $172. That's a lot of dough. The large high power pad is $600. Okay, I need to do a mid power rocket and I don't have a lot of money to spend. This is the Pro Series 2 pad. It's $56. This is also basically something you could build by yourself if you're, kind of handy. It's a launch pad with 3 PVC pipes, a metal plate, and a pole, basically. Pretty straightforward. So if you're handy, you can do that. But I don't know if we can get a bigger view, but because of this, there's no angling, there's no fancy anything. And so what you do is you put something under one of the feet. So you literally just prop it up. You want to prop it up securely because your rockets are flying off, and there's a little bit of movement and thrust and things like that. So you don't want to like precariously, you picture the movies where they balance crates and boxes on top of each other to make a ladder or whatever. You want to find a nice solid something to lift it up, or maybe build the dirt up underneath it, and then maybe put a rock on top of the leg here so that you can angle it. Remember, you're not supposed to angle it more than 30 degrees, and most of the time I think people are only angling it a couple degrees, maybe 15 total. So, you're talking just a little bit. So you don't need much to do that. So that's what, like, when Tim goes on launches with one of these launch pads, that's what he does. He just puts something underneath it, bring a book or something. Um, so some of them you might be able to modify the hole to like angle it, but then you might be kind of permanently changing something. So yeah, that's the old school, quick and dirty way to do your launch pad adjustments. So it's not pretty, but it works in a pinch. It's just like if you had to put a ladder up and the ground's not even underneath it, you might put something underneath the ladder to kind of stabilize it. Kind of the same idea. And then you just have to figure out, like he asked about like angling it to the northwest. Well, then you'll need to know which way is northwest. Like if you know which way your wind's coming, usually you just angle it into the wind, whether that wind, you don't need to know which direction it's coming from. You just do one of those things and then angle it that way. But yeah, that's kind of the old school, quick and dirty way to do it if you don't have one of those fancy, expensive launch pads for that. So hopefully that's what the people who answered said too. If not, maybe that's an extra idea. Maybe they had a different idea that I'm not thinking of too. Um, as well, you might be able to build some sort of like get a smaller PVC pipe and make it like some sort of like a telescoping camera tripod. You could make like a telescoping leg for all of them if wanted to. You just get like these are like 2-inch tubes, so get like a 1.75, 1.5 inch, and then you have them slide in and out and drill a hole, or you could get creative too to make it so it's not just a rock under the leg. But yeah, if you find yourself needing to angle it more often, then it might be good to invest in one of those expensive launch pads, or come up with like a system that you bring a book, this book that angles it up an eighth of an inch, which equals 4%, 4%, 4 degrees. And then, I'll bring a dictionary that's 15 degrees so you can write on them or whatever. You could make all sorts of things. But yeah, that's what I would do for that there. So, so yeah. Okay. Let's see. You guys doing great. Okay. Oh, okay. Mark says his question was actually more about an accurate way to measure your launch conditions in the field. Okay. Maybe that's what they answered, maybe not. I was just reading about it. Um, I mean, if you're talking weather conditions, then you need like a weather station. They make little weather stations you can get to bring to them. I don't think they're super cheap, from what I've heard. I keep meaning to look into them because I wouldn't mind having one for even like my house. We're here in Colorado and the weather is always just like constantly changing. And like right now, it's just crazy humid here this summer for us. Those of you in Florida, Georgia, Wisconsin, Michigan, humidity is a different level up there. But for Colorado, it's just like crazy humid. And so I'm always curious about what the humidity actually is, a lot of times here. And so a weather station is what you would do for the weather aspect. To do your sort of angles and things and angle into the wind, I don't know if they have, you guys may know better than me, if they have any sort of equipment to like, if you want to angle it, if you want to create an angle, 15 degrees into the wind, how you would do that. You might have to get some sort of like the weather station with the little whirly birds on them to figure out which direction the wind's going. And then you might have to use like basically a protractor to figure out your angle. I don't know. I'm kind of old school, so I'm not up on all the tech. So that's probably what I would do. You know, try and figure out. I mean, I would lick my finger and hold it up, and then um, use a protractor to kind of angle it or something. Um, but I'm sure there probably is something out there that's built for things like that. I know, there's a lot of like people who do weather balloons and stuff, so there might be kind of things in that world. Or model airplanes too, they have to deal with the wind a lot, so there may be some sort of equipment that's more model airplane focused, but that you might be able to find something that would give you that kind of information so you're flying correctly for that. Um, Alfred says, exactly, I purchased a parking lot plastic wedge and adjust it to the launch pad with the use of a level. A door stop might work too under your, rubber door stop, and you just put it on different, like your angle. You could mark on it like where the angles are. Yeah. So Terry says he has plans for a PVC launch pad that has 360 rotation and 90-degree tilt in different sizes. So yeah, you can, I mean, if you're handy and you can make your own launch pad, you could build all sorts of, you just need pins and, a pin that it can pivot around or some sort of hinge. If you wanted to build your own, I'm sure you could build something pretty easily with that. That wouldn't be too bad. And Alfred says he uses a digital protractor and to angle his rod. So that's how other people are doing it. Um, yeah. I know some of the clubs have weather stations there, but oh my gosh, sorry guys. Um, but yeah, um, beyond that, I'm not really sure. Tim's fairly old school too when it comes to flying. He's just, all this equipment starts to cost a lot of money too if you start buying all the fancy stuff. Um, and for the most part, if you fly with a club, they've got a lot of equipment, or if you're not too concerned about, exact angles and things like that. If you're using RockSim and then going out there, you might want that. Or if you're doing a competition, you might want very precise calculations, and angles and things, um, for that. Or you're doing level 3 stuff or something, for that. So, and yeah. So that's all the questions you guys have for right now. If you have any more, go ahead and throw them in the chat. I think most of you guys, or maybe all of you guys, are pretty much regulars. So, yeah, if you have a question and we probably, if we've covered it before, remember you can go to How to and Guide Software and the RockSim live training. That's where all of our last ones are. So if you were like, I remember that video where Tim talked about that one thing, this is where you can go to kind of find it there. So in terms of overall things, I'll keep talking for a little while. I won't stop yet. I'll give you guys time for some more questions, because we still have some time. Um, I I didn't really have time to prepare for this today. I mean, I knew I had to do it, but I didn't really think about needing to do this today. Normally, I try and prepare a little bit more. So I usually have a couple of backup questions too. But I know people are wondering. I'll switch my camera real quick. Um, there's a random microphone here that I have never seen before that Tim must have been doing something exciting with. Um, so I'm rotating my laptop. Hopefully it doesn't fall off the table. So I know people are can't wait for the Draco. We got face cards in today, and the first kind of draft of the instructions are done. So now we are working on proofing, layout, things like that. So the Draco's we're still plodding away at it. We've had a lot of people out on vacation and stuff, which is impacting things a little bit, and a lot of projects coming in the works. Today we got in a new 3-inch nose cone that you'll be seeing, maybe even next week. It's so we were selling, switch back here. We do sell a 3-inch nose cone. Oh, we gotta close all my windows. Okay. We sell a couple 3-inch nose cones actually. This is going to be for our thin wall tubes. So we sell one already. It comes from Balsa Machining. Um, but we have our own now. It's a different shape than that. And so we'll be using that to release some new kits too. So those will be coming down the pipeline here the rest of the year. We'll have a couple of 3-inch thin wall kits. So those will be kind of fun there. So I'm just trying to think of what's the news from here too. Um, so let's see here. So look and see if anybody has questions. Yeah. So yeah, Terry, just if you want to, if you can't quite figure it out, send us an email with your file and we'll take a look and just make sure in the email you tell us exactly what you're seeing and send the file with it, and then we can take a look. So Mark says, I've not been able to update to 10.5 for reasons I can't figure out. Can you walk me through that? And so I'll come back to that in a second. Troy says, does that mean a 3-inch nose rocket will be coming and to go with the nose cone? Um, yes, so probably asked that before I got there. So yeah, we should have some 3-inch kits coming out eventually around that nose cone too. We got to get the Draco out, so that's our first priority, obviously, before we start getting other things. But yeah, so there's some exciting things coming from that. And they just came in today. We've been waiting for a month for them. So Mark, are you on Mac or Windows? Is the first question. And I think 10.5 doesn't, you can't actually do the update. I think 10.5 requires you to fully reinstall the full download. It's been a while since 10.5 came out. But if you are on, okay, so I'm on Mac, so be aware this looks different than on Windows, as you guys probably figured out. So I am on 10.5. Okay. So Mac marks on Windows. Okay. Yeah, I think 10.5, I don't remember on Windows for sure. Sometimes we can do an update where you can just click the update button, um, and it will install things. But if certain things, like the update only updates certain folders in RockSim, and if we change something outside of those folders, then you can't just do the update. You have to do a full install um, instead. And I can't remember if 10.5 requires that or not for Windows. Mac, you always have to do a full install. There is no update option because of things, unfortunately, with the way Mac is right now and the way RockSim's set up. So that's always that way. But Windows might be, so it might be that. I don't remember now where the 10.5 update stuff. It wasn't the home page. That's how I got it, but this is not what I wanted. FAQs. So my first suggestion would be is if your update link isn't working, then to try doing a full install um, of it. RockSim 10. This is all old stuff for installing. I'll have to figure out where that is. It's a good question. But yeah, so you might try doing a full install. The other thing I can think of, if it's not that way, because I can't remember, would be there might be something blocking the update, like communication. Like it's possible that like a virus protection software firewall, something could be blocking it so that it's like you click the button and it tries to look and it doesn't. But that would be the other thing. But generally, if people can't get things to work like an update, the first suggestion is just to do a full reinstall. What you'll need to do is if you have any custom Rocket files in your designs folder, so on this will look different because I'm on a Mac, but on Windows, this would be your programs and programs x86 folder. And then so what I would probably do is go into your RockSim, your RockSim folder, and I would pull your RockSim 10.4, 10.3, 10.0, whatever you're doing it from. Just like grab it and pull it out of your programs folder, then do your install. If you've got, you only need to do this if you have custom designs. So, or you can just pull your designs out if you want. That works too. This is where your designs are stored. On Windows, I think there's another folder level before this one's in here. So you might have to go into one more folder and then designs. So, and this again, this is only if you have custom or if you've modified the existing files. If you've saved your custom designs, say on your desktop, you don't need to worry about it. But when you reinstall, it could override this if you install it with the same name. On Windows, I think it asks you what you want to name it. So if like, say you're using 10.4 and this is 10.5, you can install it as 10.5. So you'll have 10.4 and 10.5 on your computer. And then you can make sure you have everything you need before you delete 10.4 off. So that's kind of my backup for it. I'll look and see too if I can remember. It's in the blog, the Apogee blog. And I don't remember. News from my blog. Latest news, maybe. I feel like there's maybe a note on the place where it tells you how to walk through updating, but I'll look and see too, and see if I can figure it out. But yeah, that's what I would just do is do a full install if that isn't working, and then hopefully that'll be fine, Mark. And if it's not still, if you're still having problems or something's not right, let me know. And the other nice thing is if you install it as a separate name, if something goes wrong or it doesn't work great, you still have 10.4 to use in the meantime for that. So yeah. Um, so yes. Okay. Other than that, things we are doing here. So yeah, it's been kind of a quiet week. We're doing some internal stuff here. So got the newscomes came in. That Tim got to go. I don't know if you saw our Facebook post. Tim got to go visit Ursa Major this week, which is a rocket company. They make liquid propellant for like the space industry, and so he got to do that. And he took some pictures there. He got to go up to visit them, and he didn't get to see a test fire of the hybrid launch. Unfortunately, he missed it by like an hour. He had like a 2 hour drive to get up there, and he just missed it. So he was really bummed about that. So I never turn this up here. So yeah, so this is the guy that I think that asked him up there, and then he got to go up and look at some of these liquid propellant stuff. And look at their satellite. And then the engineers there were doing a rocket build. And so he went up to kind of help with that. That's their rocket test stand. And they test multiple times a day. They launch from their like grounds. They launch rockets like straight on their property, too, which is crazy. We have to drive like an hour and a half to go launch rockets here, but these are their engineers building rockets, so Tim got to go help with that. So yeah, that was kind of fun and different. To do that as well. Um, the Simple Tracker 4 is coming out in the next week or so, and that'll have an extra value on the screen. Otherwise, it's pretty much the same, but and then the calibration's a little different. That's coming out too. So that's kind of our new stuff that's happening here. Um, so with us, we always have new products on the homepage. This month, our tool of the month is a dental spatula, which is really good for like mixing things like in a small, small amount of mixing things. And it has a little chisel on the other end to kind of even things out a little bit too. So that's free with a $75 purchase if you use a coupon. So that's always nice to add to your toolbox there. Tim should be back next week. To do the RockSim Live again. And if you have any questions, you can email those ahead of time. It's really nice to have something to come in with, just a couple questions there for that. So that's all there. I don't really have much else. You guys don't have any questions anymore for me. So I'm trying to think. Maybe we'll launch. We'll open his level 3 rocket up again. And let's just see what this puppy can do. We throw, so it's going, he's flying it on an M. Probably big M. Let's put a big M3100. So these rockets, and this 1200 is going to go higher. But I mean, we're talking 10,000 feet. That's crazy. 10,000 feet. We don't do rockets that big here. Like we sell parts for them, but like some of them. But yeah, I mean, 10,000 feet. That's insane. It's 90 inches long. This is a big rocket. Really slow liftoff. How slow is it? Oh, it's going 36 miles off the. Oh, well, you know what? Part of the problem is I think my launch rod's still only 60 inches. That'll also help a little bit. So it's not safe because of weathercocking, which makes sense because the stability margin for this big of a motor is 0.47, so it needs some nose weight. Oh, yeah, cool. We'll get to see rockets like that fly very often, so probably once a decade. But yeah. So you guys are funny. The chat. So yeah, I don't really have anything else today. Sorry guys. If you guys have anything else, throw it in there in the next minute or so. Um, and if you miss RockSim, Micah says he once had a dream that he missed RockSim live training and it was sad. So guess what? If you miss it, like I said, you can always go back and watch it. It's not as fun as watching live and being able to chat with us, but you can always see what we talked about, um, which is fun. And yeah, oh, apparently it's my nap time too. Um, yeah, so I think that's everything that's happening right now. Um, here, we're back next week. Um, but yeah, I think that's it for today. It's a little short. I tried to stretch it out as long as possible. I went too fast. I jumped right into it too fast today. Usually we talk a little bit of it at the beginning, and that helps. But yeah, so Tim will see you guys next week, and send in your questions. Be thinking about things. Try out RockSim if you haven't paid for it. There's a free 30-day demo. Try out the launch visualizer, which is at rocksim.com. Um, and that you can fly small rockets for free. If you create an account, you can do medium-sized rockets, and then if you do the paid plan, you can fly any size rockets. Paid plan's only $3 a month or $30 a year. I mean, $30 is almost like one meal or maybe two meals now. So it's not much and it's kind of fun to play with. So definitely try that out if you get a chance.